Low light photography is magical. But let's be real, getting sharp photos in the dark can be a nightmare. Your autofocus hunts, your shots turn out blurry, and you end up missing the moment. Sound familiar? Want to nail focus in low light? Easy. Just get a $10,000 lens with night vision technology, hire a team of lighting experts, and shoot at noon every time. Problem solved. Or you could stick around because I've got real tips to help you get tack-sharp shots even in the darkest conditions. If you missed my last video on how to get sharp photos, make sure you head back there and check it out, as today I'm continuing on by diving deeper into getting sharp focus in low light. First up, use the right autofocus mode. Autofocus can struggle in the dark, but the right settings make all the difference. We use spot or single point autofocus. Letting your camera pick focus points in low light is a recipe for missed shots. So take control and choose a single autofocus point. Cameras will give you the choice of the size of the focus box. Don't choose the smallest one if you're shooting in low light. Also, using back button focus so that you can lock focus once and avoid hunting from shot to shot if your shutter button is also your focus button. Back button focus separates your shutter button and your focus button. And then use AFC, continuous autofocus, for moving subjects. If your subject is moving, keep autofocus tracking on to maintain sharpness. Number 2, find a contrasty edge to lock focus. Cameras rely on contrast in order to focus, so if everything looks flat, they'll struggle. Aim for those light and dark edges. Find where the light meets the shadow, like the edge of a subject's face or the edge of the clothing. Use a bright object. And if there's no contrast, you can use a light source, even a street light or a phone screen or even a flashlight to help the camera lock focus. Number 3, use an external light to create contrast on your subject. Many cameras and flashes have AF assist beams, which project light to help autofocus. We prefer to use an external light, typically a headlamp, to temporarily illuminate the subject so that we can lock focus. Often we'll use this for something like a star portrait, where we're also using a tripod and our subject is stationary, making this method possible and fairly efficient. Number 4, switch to manual focus when needed. If autofocus isn't cutting it, manual focus is your friend. You can use focus peaking if it's available. Many mirrorless cameras highlight in-focus areas in red or white, so you can see what's going to be in focus when you take the photo. You can also zoom in with live view, magnify your image on the LCD to fine-tune your focus. You can also use a distance marker. Some lenses have a distance scale. You pre-focus to an estimated range and fine-tune from there. But note that distance marking is not always very accurate, so you'll have to double check what it's doing and make sure it's actually working for you. A lot of mirrorless cameras communicate that focusing distance on the LCD screen, which can be handy to use. In general, with my newer camera system and lenses, I find that autofocus actually works really well in low light. So rarely do I have to switch to manual or use some of these tips I just talked about, except perhaps in astrophotography. If you're using an older system, these tips will be more relevant and you'll find yourself using live view more often or distance measurement. Number 5, boost your ISO and use a faster lens. Sometimes your camera just needs more light to see better and to focus faster. So increase your ISO. A brighter preview makes it easier to focus, even if you adjust it back later. Mirrorless cameras automatically do this for you, which is why they focus so well in low light. You can also use a wide aperture lens. Lenses with f1.8 or f2.8 let in more light, helping your camera focus. I always use my low aperture lenses in low light conditions. So know your gear. Some lenses, especially those cheap zooms, struggle in the dark. And if you know your gear's limits, you'll know when you need to switch to a low aperture lens. Number 6, pre-focus and anticipate the shot. In unpredictable low light situations, planning ahead makes a huge difference. You can lock focus in a brighter area, focusing where there's more light, and then recompose your shot. You just need to make sure that the distance from the camera to the subject doesn't change. This is easiest with a wider angle lens where the depth of field isn't as narrow at the lower apertures. This is also a time when it helps to use back button focus. This lets you lock focus separately from the shutter, so you're not refocusing every time you shoot. You set your focus and then you can shoot at that focus distance. You can also shoot multiple frames. Take a few extra shots to increase your chances of getting a tack-sharp one. Number 7 is to use a tripod and manual focus for things like landscapes. If you're shooting in low light for landscapes, astrophotography, night cityscapes, autofocus often won't work at all. So you'll want to use a tripod. That extra stability lets you fine-tune manual focus without camera shake. You can try focusing on infinity, but carefully. Some lenses have an infinity focus mark, but use it as a starting point and always fine-tune to make sure you're getting the sharpest result. You can also use live view and magnify. So zoom in on a star or a street light or a distant object to make sure that you're nailing focus. And then take a test shot and double check again by zooming in on the back screen. Let's have a look at some photos and talk about what we did. Starting here with this landscape portrait of a couple with star photos. You can see that we shot it with a wide angle lens with the couple far away from us so that we were able to get the couple sharp as well as the mountains, the stars, the chairlift. Everything can be sharp if you're using a wide angle lens and the couple's far enough away. The biggest challenge here was ambient light from the building, making it hard to freeze the motion of the couple. So the couple is lit with a flash in order to help freeze that motion. But we did use that trick of using the headlamp to help find them, to find where we needed to stick the focus point in order to focus on the couple. Then you have them stand as still as possible while you take the picture using that 2-second timer that allows you to not get any camera shake from pressing of the shutter button. We usually take a test shot to make sure that everything's going to be sharp how we like it. And then we usually check the shot afterwards because this is a shot that takes 8 seconds to capture. We want to make sure that we nailed it. So zooming in on the back screen and making sure that the couple is sharp and that everything looks good is a good idea. And maybe taking another shot just to have more than one to choose from. We'll move on to this other landscape portrait of a couple. You'll notice that in this one, we're a lot closer to the couple so that they're bigger. The couple is sharp, the stars are not. And so that's intentional, a different effect. You still get that beautiful Milky Way. We used a lot of the same techniques here and lighting the couple with the flash to freeze the motion. So here the couple is sharp, the stars are not. So sometimes you're choosing what's going to be sharp in a photo by being close to the couple. We shot another version of this where we backed up, had the couple further away, stars and couple are both sharp. It gives you 2 different effects in terms of what kind of sharpness you want in the low light. There is going to be some graininess when you're shooting at a high ISO, when you're shooting in a super dark environment like this. But these newer cameras are pretty good at high ISO, and I think it's still a passable sharp image. If you shoot for longer than that 15 to 20 seconds, then you're going to start to get the motion blur of the stars moving in the sky. So you're limited by the low aperture of your lens, the 15 to 20 second mark where the stars start to move, and then whatever ISO you need to in order to achieve that. Here's a different example. This is indoors in a reception. You can see that it's getting dark outside. Sometimes you want to add light to a photo because if we were to shoot this without adding light, everything would just be dark. It would be hard to know what your subject focus should be. And so here we added a flash to light the subjects, but still get the context of the grander room and capture all that ambient light. So you're going to expose for the ambient light to be how you want it to be, to get the mountains through the windows, to get the cool market lights, and then you're going to add a flash to light your subject. Here the limitations are different than a star photo. You can have a lower ISO because it's not quite as dark, and your shutter speed needs to be slow enough to sync with your flash speed. The flash is going to freeze the motion of your subjects, and you either want to be on a tripod or just holding your camera steady enough depending on how slow of a shutter speed you're using. Here's an example of that longer exposure that I was talking about where you can see the movement of the stars, but as you can see, Half Dome is tack-sharp right there in the middle. You're able to have a lower ISO, making it less grainy than a high ISO image would be, and shooting at the lowest aperture that your lens will allow. And in contrast here, again, you're limited by not wanting the movement of the stars. The foreground is not sharp intentionally, but the mountains and everything beyond that are sharp. Lowest aperture possible, limited by that 15 to 20 seconds before you start to see the star movement, and then that traps you at an ISO of 3200, which is still pretty effective on this camera at getting a sharp image. Here we can't use a tripod because we're hiking up a mountain. We're using that technique of finding contrast to find focus. So you can see where there's a headlamp, where I have my headlamp on, Mark's able to focus on me because there's that contrast for him to focus on me. Because we're moving and we're not at a tripod, we have to shoot at what is a comfortable shutter speed to not get motion blur. For Mark, that was 1/50th of a second. Lowest aperture possible on this lens, 1.8, which puts our ISO at 6400, accounting for some of the graininess you see, but it's still a sharp photo, sharp there on me, the subject. Another photo from that early morning hike, similar settings. You can see the sharpness on the subject and using again that headlamp trick of finding contrast so that we can focus on the subject. Sometimes a little movement, blur, even graininess can be artistic, and it's okay as it's part of the storytelling of this early morning light that we're getting. Another early morning hike, using the headlamps not only artistically to have them as part of the subject, but also to help us find how to focus on the subject. And you can see that they're really tack sharp there. You've got some blur in the foreground here, and our sharpness goes out to those mountains there. High ISO again, so you get a little bit of graininess from that, but shooting at a comfortable shutter speed to not get too much motion blur, to freeze that motion in low light. If you didn't want them to be wearing the headlamps, you could use the headlamps to light them just to get the focus, turn off the headlamps, and take the picture as well. So you can see that we can get great low light images with and without a tripod. If you are using the tripod, that 2-second timer helps you even reduce the camera shake even more for those longer exposures. If you have any questions on any of these images, leave a comment down below. In conclusion, low light focus doesn't have to be a struggle. With the right autofocus settings, a bit of manual control, and some smart tricks, you can get sharp shots every time, even in the darkest conditions. So which of these tips will you try first? And what questions do you still have on this subject? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to be notified of the next videos in this sharpness series. But next up, go back and check out my first video in this series on capturing sharp photos every time. I'll see you over there.